But the road ahead is still very long for Hank Skinner because the Supreme Court will only decide in the fall whether or not he has the right indeed to ask for new DNA tests years after his trial and, of course, years after he was sentenced to death. If the Supreme Court agrees to let him ask for new DNA evidence to be retrieved, we can expect Hank Skinner and his lawyers to try and obtain new DNA tests. Of course, it's interesting because a lot of other inmates currently on death row are watching what the Supreme Court will say, because if the Supreme Court agrees to let Hank Skinner ask for new DNA tests, that means that a lot of other inmates on death row will probably try to do exactly the same thing, and you can expect dozens of cases to come up in the next few years if that's the case, if Hank Skinner doesn't obtain new DNA tests, because lots of people were denied those tests back in the early 90s, especially in Texas, or those tests were not carried out properly, or the technology was not available at the time. So it's a very important case, and a lot of legal experts are watching in the U.S. because it could have huge implications for the status of the death penalty in this country.
And Guillaume, just very briefly, please, what does Hank Skinner and his team hope to prove?
Well, what he has been repeating is that the DNA tests could prove that he is not the one who killed his girlfriend at the time and her two sons. He says that another member of their family did it, and he says that himself was too drunk at the time to have carried out the murder. And he says, of course, that new DNA evidence could prove his case. The stakes, of course, are very high. Just a month ago, he came from an hour from being executed after just before the Supreme Court decided to suspend his execution. So, of course, he hopes to escape death, and that is what he hopes to achieve right now, and prove his innocence, of course, after years of struggle.